Oh,
Oh, there she is.
yeah, hello.
Okay. All right. Okay, wait. Hold on, Jody, just a second. We're in the middle of something. I'm talking to David.
No
Okay.
problem. All right, so welcome everyone. We've had a little bit of technical difficulties today, and most of them are on my side. So if you missed this live time, I can send you the recording, just to hopefully next time I won't be so frazzled. But we're dealing about anxiety anyway, so it's a good learning experience. So we can all be aware that there's different things in our life that have created anxiety, frustration, trauma, stress in our lives. And sometimes it can be just little things, and sometimes it's big things. And so, as I was telling, as we kind of got started here before we started, is that, I had to do some laundry today, and it was my mom had some laundry that had some really heavy detergent in it that was really toxic. And so it bothered me to the sense that it just kind of threw my brain off and my timing off, my liver off, my vagus nerve to liver off. And so my liver literally right now is only functioning at a 1. But toxins make you stupid. And so sometimes you forget things. So sure enough, I got the time frame mixed up. And so we're starting a little bit later than it was supposed to. And so I'm just grateful for the people here that there's a lot of grace in this world. So thank you. So, so when we have stress, anxiety, and trauma, it creates a physical it creates a physical and a non-physical response inside our body. And that trauma can overwhelm our immune system and our nervous system and its capability to process those experiences. And so they kind of get like stuck as like pieces in the body that are left unprocessed, frozen behind in time, in your mind and in your body and your tissue. And so anytime the flow of energy goes through those places, like if you have to relive that issue or you have that same kind of similar experience, those areas will be like almost like highlighted, or they will like turn on. And so therefore you'll experience that trauma again. So for me, my particular, angst is, and I really didn't figure this out until literally this morning, but I've had some trauma with sleep. And so, and bedding material. And it's interesting, I've had like 1, 2, 3 major things that happened in regards to like bedding and the smell of laundry detergent. And so it's kind of like one of those things that it kind of gets me. And so it's neat with what I do with quantum techniques is I'm able to find out what are those linchpins, those 3 times that it's impacted my life, so that I can clear them and shift it so I won't have that again. But it is interesting that those parts of you just kind of get stuck. And so then you experience that trauma again. And but it is clearable. And I think that's what's nice. So another way to kind of explain it that may be a little bit more concrete is if you've been driving down a road and you're in a car accident, okay? And so our bodies hold the pattern of that trauma of that car accident. And when we don't deal with that trauma, when we do deal with those issues and the situations that have created the trauma or stress or anxiety in our lives, then we become more resilient human beings. And so that's why it's important to go through that. And I just shared this with a group of gentlemen this week. And one said that sometimes he likes to hold on to the trauma so it propels him to do better in life, or it motivates him. And I think that's a noble way of looking at it. But what I feel and what we've kind of said at Quantum Techniques is when you hold that trauma in your body, then that's where disease starts, because there's inflammation around that trauma. And then that trauma will turn into, that the inflammation turns into disease. And so I think it's better to deal with it instead of letting it continue. Another way that I sometimes have explained it is, we think about when we were kids and we had a beach ball and we were in the water and we tried to sit on the beach ball. underneath the water. And so then we were like trying to teeter on and keep our balance. And then eventually, we'd fall over and the ball would pop to the surface. I think that's what's literally happening in our body, is that when we have unresolved issues in our body or from our life, then they eventually, we don't have the energy to hold them down anymore. And so they pop to the surface. And so that's why I was just listening to something again today that was talking about between the ages of 40 and 60 is where you are reaping the rewards of your life, that you put in all the work in your 20s and 30s. But that also can be the things you haven't worked on that's also reaping the reward. So it's that same idea. And so yeah, so I think just one of the other things I wanted to say for you, Barbara, and I think is helpful, is that children, when we have babies in our lives, they somehow are our reflection. So that's almost like they hold up a mirror to us for us to look and see what we haven't dealt with. And so a lot of times there's a lot of angst that happens around having children because they reveal to you what you haven't worked on. And it's quite interesting how that happens, and it happens with every couple. So I thought of that as kind of that we're talking about this. All right. So what I like to do is I like you guys to think of a situation that you're going through, that you're wanting to work on with anxiety, that may have strong emotion, that's a trauma in your life. And the beauty of what we do at Quantum Techniques is we don't have to relive it, but we just need to know, okay, well, what is it that we're wanting to work on? What brings us angst? And then we want to give it a number between 1 and 10. And it's good to work with anything that's, like a 7 or above, so we can really have some movement and show you kind of how the technique works. Okay, so just like you kind of close your eyes and kind of think of what the situation is that you want to work on. Okay, so and I think it's helpful for me to actually pick one too. So for me, the situation that I'm working on is about a 6, I'm going to say. Okay, and so I haven't put anybody. So David, what have you come up with something that you can rate on a scale from 1 to 10?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, what's your number?
7.
Okay, and Barbara, what is your number? Oh, you're muted, so if you could let us know.
Today it's a 9.
A 9. Okay, got it. All right. So we want to work on those. Okay. All right. So I am going to do the magic if I can. I'm going to share screen. All right. And I'm going to share this one. Okay. So these are the trauma, the sequence, the QT trauma sequence. So I'm going to have you kind of follow along with me. And I assume that you can see that. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Great. Okay. All right. All right. So go ahead and follow along with me. So we have eyebrow, index finger, little finger, side of hand, start the eyebrow, under the eye, middle finger, side of hand, index finger, outside of the eye, and then the armpit, which is hard to see. There we go. And then collarbone. All right, let's do it again. So eyebrow, index finger, little finger, side of hand, eyebrow, under the eye, the middle finger, side of hand, index finger, outside the eye, and the armpit and collarbone. One more time. Eyebrow, index finger, little finger, side of hand, eyebrow, under the eye, middle finger, side of hand, index finger, outside the eye, the armpit, and the collarbone. All right. I just want you to close your eyes and take a deep breath. Okay. And just check in with yourself and find out kind of where is that number. Okay. So David, where is that for you?
5.
Okay. And Barbara? Okay. And then you're on mute. So you want to give me a
Used to muting myself on these calls.
no
in
problem.
between. 7.
7. Okay. And mine went to a 4. So it's definitely for all of us, it's dropped. So that's good. All right. So let's do it one more time and kind of go through it. Sometimes different aspects come up. So we're just trying to be aware of that. Okay. So start of the eyebrow, index finger, little finger, side of hand, eyebrow, under the eye, middle finger, side of hand, index finger, outside the eye, armpit, and collarbone. Eyebrow, index finger, little finger, side of hand, eyebrow, under the eye, middle finger, side of hand, index finger, outside the eye, the armpit, and the collarbone. Okay, so taking another deep breath. We got lots of yawning, so I'm definitely releasing stuff here. Okay, so David, where are you when you check in with yourself?
4.
Okay, so 4. And then Barbara?
5.
Okay, and I dropped down to a 2. Okay, all right. So I'm going to, let's go ahead and do it one more time since we've got a couple still numbers up in the 4s and things like that. So, okay, so eyebrow, index finger, little finger, side of hand, eyebrow, under the eye, the middle finger, side of hand, index finger, outside the eye, the armpit, and the collarbone. Eyebrow, index finger, little finger, side of hand, eyebrow, under the eye, middle finger, side of hand, index finger, outside the eye, the armpit, and the collarbone. Okay, just taking a deep breath. I can tell I'm detoxing because I'm yawning so much. So, all right. So, David, where are you?
Kind of 2.5, 3-ish.
Okay. All right. And Barbara?
Me too.
Okay. Yeah. And then mine kind of pretty much dropped away. So I'm not carrying it anymore, which is why I have all the yawns too. So,
Yeah.
all right. So that's an example of how that negative energy gets stuck in our body. So there is sometimes when things kind of stay a little bit more stuck, that there's a way that we kind of sometimes have body sensations. In other words, we have tightness. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this. We have tightness in our body. We have like a pain sensation, or we have, it could be throbbing. It could be numbness, just any different kind of ways that we feel that energy inside our body. And so I just wanted to see if either David or Barbara, if you had any kind of that feeling inside your body that you need to have moved through or looked at.
Yeah, I guess I'll start. So for me, it's kind of in the chest area.
Okay. All right. All right. And Barbara, do you have it?
Yeah, it's definitely in my lower abdomen. I almost never have this, but as of tonight, I've just had this, it's just a feeling, it's kind of crude, but of trapped gas. And
Okay.
it's not anything I ate.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, yeah, I feel like.
Yeah, it's interesting because that's exactly where I hold my anger, or if somebody's angry with me and I feel I'm just not used to people being angry around me, and that's where I hold it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. All right. So we're looking at those 2 areas for you guys. And so I'm just going to run through, excuse me, Another technique that is clearing that, and I'm doing it for both of you, okay? And you don't have to follow along. You just kind of, just being aware of kind of wanting to move that out of your body. So I do side of hand, under nose, side of hand, putting it back on parasympathetic recovery. And then I'm putting back on all the brain engines, okay? And then clearing that lock and key with all non-physically attached fields. Then what I'm doing, kind of the same thing we just did with those points, but as you can tell, I had them on a piece of paper, or I have them on a card, and I'm just running my finger like I'm running it down that code, okay, and just letting that go. And a lot of times you will experience at this point that yawning, because you're clearing that energy out. And when we add oxygen is when we're clearing that out. Like I said, and a lot of times when I'm working with people, I yawn because I'm clearing their body, but somehow I do the yawning. Okay. So I'm just feeling it a little bit in my shoulders. So I'm just kind of letting that go. Other yawn. Okay. Okay. So David, how is that feeling now in that chest area?
Yeah, it is a bit better. Yeah.
Great. Okay. And then Barbara, how about for you in that lower area?
Well, there's movement. Let me just say there's movement, okay? It's up. Movement up, actually.
There you go. All right.
It's the chi, it's the energy moving, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
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 And obviously when I have that lower back, it's just almost like I have trapped gas. And so then the gas comes out. So yeah, it's just,
Okay.
that's,
Well, now
and
that
I know it's moving better.
I feel like I've got trapped bounce in there too.
There you go.
I so hear you on the stinky stuff on clothes. Ugh.
And I watched it 2 times and it still was bad. And it's just like, and it's just amazing how much, and then people are walking around with that all the time, you know.
I know, I can smell it in the street when I walk by people. It's like I get punched, especially people who are going to the gym and they wash their sweat clothes every day with stinky soap and bounce. It's like they're giving themselves cancer.
Oh yeah.
And
yeah, and you wish you could explain it to them.
well, and also fragrances are completely unregulated.
Yeah.
Anyway, preaching to the choir. I hear you.
Yeah. All right. So that's a way that we move our energy out of our body when it's stuck. Okay. And we a lot of times, excuse me, we do that at the end of a QT treatment. So to make sure that all the sludge that we've released, stuff like that, it has a way to get out of the body. Another thing that I think is fascinating is just another tool, and that both of you guys seem very in tune with what, how your body's feeling and things like that. And I just want you to be aware, sometimes if you do have like a headache or you have a place in your body that is kind of aching and something like that, you can press on it and just, like you're just kind of tuning in. And I'm always amazed that there will be an emotion that will come forward. Like you'll start almost kind of tearing up, or you will feel the anger or the sadness come through. And so I just want you to be aware that when you do have an area in your body that's sore like that, that's another tool that you can use to just help your body clear things out. And I think it's pretty powerful. I'm sorry, I keep yawning. Obviously, I need to clear this. All right, so we use quantum techniques to get to the root cause of health issues. And so this is just an example of how we use quantum techniques to clear trauma and to clear stuck emotions and beliefs that may be in the body. But we can do the same thing with virus frequencies and bacterial frequencies and toxins that are like food, mold, obviously inhalants like laundry detergent and perfumes that may be stuck in the body or stuck in our field, causing us angst. My nose is a little stuffy today because I was smelling all the clothes to see which ones were smelling or bad. And so it's kind of stuffed up. And so we help the body reconnect to its divine healing intelligence so it can heal. And we believe that God created our bodies to heal themselves, but sometimes there's so many toxins that we come in contact with in our lives that our cells have a hard time being in a healthy state. And so a lot of times we're identifying what are those toxins that are bothering you, what's getting in the way so that the body can start working again. And so sometimes, like I said, sometimes we just take on too many, and we mean well. I have a client I worked with this week that, she's studying all these different herbs that are really helpful. And so she kept taking this one and this one and this one, and then got herself in a pickle. So I was helping her get out of it. It's okay. Let's just not do anything for a little bit, and we'll bring the body back down into balance, and then we'll find out what we really should be adding. So it's really helpful to know, and not only to not have to spend so much money on herbs and things like that, but to know what's really beneficial for your body, and how, so you don't have to spend money on it. Like I found an herb that tested very good, that would be good, but I took it for a couple of days, and I said, okay, now I want to not take it and see how my body reacted, if it's still good. And I got, yeah, it was good, but it was only 1 out of 10. Well, I don't want to waste my money, my money for buying that. So, all right. So I wanted to open it up for questions. So if you guys have any questions about kind of what we did, or things that would help you, let me know.
I guess my first question would be the trauma sequence that you showed us. Is that in the QT materials? That
It should be, but I can also send you the actual treatment.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be good.
And I'm not sure I have your email. I might, but
well, I received a notice of this event, so let's see.
Somebody, that goes to quantum techniques, and I'm not. Sometimes it doesn't.
Well, but I sent you an email just a moment ago, or an hour, whatever it was. So.
All right. So yeah, so I'll send you the trauma sequence.
Yeah,
and then great. Barbara, you already have that because I think I gave it to you last time.
Well, I'm sure I have it because I have all the book and everything and the codes that from before. And if the trauma code hasn't changed, I do have it.
Okay. Yeah, no, it hasn't changed. So yeah.
But I hadn't been doing it because somehow I wasn't thinking of it being trauma.
And I've had the same thing too. I mean, I've been doing QT for 16 years, and I think the first time I used it is when I broke my leg, and that was in 2011. And I forget about it. It's like such a simple tool, and I use it in my when I'm working with somebody in the treatment, but when I'm doing a code with somebody, but sometimes in my everyday life, I don't realize, oh, that's something that can help me now, kind of thing. And so, but yeah, it's just one of those things that's really a kind of a go-to. I keep trying to teach my son to do it when he has tests and things like that, because that's, test anxiety, and that makes sense. But yeah, sometimes just on the average, you don't think about doing it when random things, the dog runs away, or you're trying to take care of a sticky situation. But I think something, Barbara, that I was wanting to bring up, and I hadn't really quantified it, is you're saying, how do I help not only me stay balanced, but to help others in my life stay balanced? And I think it is a practice of learning how to be at peace and watch. And I know from Guy Finley, one of the things that he really teaches is to something called miro. And it's, in other words, we're looking at life through a window of what's going on the stage, but the window is also a mirror. And so it mirrors back to us how we respond to that situation. And he calls that miro. And I think that whole concept, and maybe just listening to a lot of his teachings, has really helped me just kind of calm things down and be more watchful, and instead of being more reactive. And so that's something that's, I think, really, it's more of a practice, but it's just being aware that you're watching, and then you're watching your response to what you're seeing. another thing that I think is helpful is when we do have thoughts that come up that are like, and when like you have a situation and it's like you keep running the situation and, oh, I should have said this and that should have happened. And, and it's like, oh, I should have done better. Sometimes we have to put almost like quantify it, or we have to put a stop to it so that our mind doesn't keep going and running over those same things. And I think what's really helpful is our mind is designed to create what our response is supposed to be and how to figure things out and how to do it better. And that's what it was designed to do, but we can go into overdrive. And so being aware of saying, okay, the thought is going to come and we can't stop the thought. Okay, so we honor the thought when it comes. Thank you for coming. Okay, because that's what it's supposed to do. But then we want to put limits on it. And so we say, but be on your way. And so we send it away. And so thank you for coming, but be on your way. And that small practice has really helped me a lot to not take on the negative situation that I may be in that is continuing to kind of beat me up in some ways and not let me go. But it really has helped me be able to send it on its way. But it is a practice, and it has to, in other words, I remember I had a situation with, a friend that didn't quite understand my testing. And so I was helping her out, and then she wasn't appreciative. And so I kept playing it over and over and over again. And I just really had to say, every time that thought comes, I have to be persistent in saying goodbye, because it's not helping me to keep going over and over and over. It's not going to change the situation. It is what it is. And so I think that's where the discipline comes in, is to always, every time you have a statement, say it. Now, typically within about a day and a half, that will dissipate and your body won't keep running the route that you're in. So, so I hope that those two things are are helpful, those two concepts, as you're moving forward.
I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
One is, for that specific line of thinking, I should have done this or I should have done that.
Mm-hmm.
If you catch yourself doing that, is there a code that you might recommend to use in that particular situation?
To be honest, I would use the trauma, the sequence. I do think that's probably, it's kind of a universal one. Another thing that
Go ahead.
to be aware of is when we talk about the internal voice and whether it's working for us or against us, one of the key things you can listen for is, what if, and then your mind goes, yeah, but. And I think that's really interesting. And a lot of times, Guy Finley, that kind of teaches that, talks about, if you're in the shower, how you kind of just, your mind gets going in the shower and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but you're thinking. And so if you find that you're in the, in the shower, you're going, what if, yeah, but, and your mind keeps doing that, that's that internal voice that keeps going around that needs to be stopped. And it's almost like stepping back and then being okay, watching what's happening and being aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what Gary Craig calls tail enders?
Tell me more.
In EFT tapping?
Mhm.
Well, the second one, yeah, but not so much the first one, the what if, but a tail ender is when you're tapping on something to say, you're choosing a better thing, and then underneath you're going, oh yeah, right. Or yeah, that's really going to happen. Or yeah, like when I was 15. And so that's a tail ender. Is that what you meant by the what if and yeah, but?
I think that's a good example. Yeah, exactly. And it's just like it's almost like the negative part of our brain, or the one that's against us, ego, whatever you want to say, is wanting to trip us up. And so it's like trying to not allow us to move and change and be in the new space.
I think you're right. It's an ego thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're
All right.
welcome.
And I have one more question.
Sure.
So coming back to the whole anxiety subject, it sounds like the view is that all anxiety ultimately springs from unresolved trauma. Is that fair?
Yes, but a lot of anxiety can also come from major toxins. Like,
Okay.
you know, if you have an anxiety attack, there's a lot of times you've come across a toxin that has overridden some part of the brain, whether, you know, and it's usually neurotransmitters or the cerebellum or something like that. So anxiety attacks tend to be a little bit of a shift, but trauma is kind of part of that. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And with regards to the use of the trauma code, it's not necessary to identify, you know, specific events out of my past in order.
I think what I mean when I kind of said that is that, you know, EFT tends to want you to start the story, or I would say original EFT is say, okay, I have this issue and this is the story. And so I'm going to walk through that story. And every time I have a spike of higher anxiety or you're going to tap on that, you know, even though I love myself, I have this. And so you have to relive that story in order until you don't have any of those spikes.
Sure.
And we kind of feel at QT that we don't want you to relive the trauma to have to heal it. And so being able to say, okay, this is what the issue is, you can work through that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's times where you will have spikes, and I didn't necessarily cover that, but a lot of times what happens is you're thinking about a different aspect of the issue. So
Right.
going back to the car wreck, you may be going down the road and you were thinking about how you felt when you slipped on the ice and the car started going, okay, in a certain, so you felt that's force, okay. Then another aspect may be when you hear the crunch when you hit the tree, okay. And then another aspect may be what you actually saw, the car coming towards you, but you veered off and into the ditch. So there's all those different aspects of the trauma that may be there that you may have to tap on. But does that make sense? That it kind of is maybe an individual situation, but it's whatever you're dealing with.
Right. It sounds like if you're aware of a specific event, that would be useful to use the codes to address that specific event,
Yeah.
and probably more useful to do it that way than to just use the codes for some general anxiety that I'm feeling right now.
Yeah, and so you might think about, like with EFT, they like you to go back and say, okay, what were the times that were frustrating? Like I talked about,
Sure.
okay, laundry detergent, you know, nails me. Okay, well, why was it? Okay, well, there were these three traumas I had in my life that dealt with maybe laundry detergent or bedding and stuff like that. Okay, so then I need to clear those, or find out why those keep having angst with me. And each time the base thought is I'm not safe. And so as I'm clearing those, I'm clearing that trauma of I'm not safe.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the basis of anxiety, would you say, is I'm not safe?
I have to say that in quantum techniques, that's one of the number one belief systems, is that I'm not safe. And it typically shows up for people that have a lot of environmental sensitivity.
Oh,
Yeah. So for me personally, I want to be hyper vigilant to be aware of people that might hurt me. And so if I'm hyper vigilant to an inhalant that I can't see, then I'm more vigilant to see the things I can see. Does that make sense? So, you know, our bodies work in different ways and everybody has a different like bent from whatever they had, but that's my
Yeah.
particular one.
that's interesting.
And then we also sometimes have intentions, which is like, well, if I give this up, then who's going to be hyper vigilant? Well, that's why we give it up to our higher power and say, okay, you know, no, he's protecting me. I don't have to worry about it. You know, so.
Well, what do we do, for example? So I have a cousin who lives in town, who has a lot of issues, and when I went to see her not too long ago, she's sort of famous for being super picky about everything, her food, her clothes, her this and that. I went to give her a hug, and she went to give me a hug, but just as she was going to hug me, she said, "Oh, are you wearing any perfume? Because I'm so allergic." And I was like, "No, I'm not wearing any perfume." But I felt like saying, "Yes, I just squirted myself with Ambush, or one of those terrible perfumes from the 60s, And she also just had herself a 60th birthday where she invited everyone to a dance party that I didn't go to because there's a lot of people and I don't go where there are a lot of people. But she said, "Please come to my party." And then she said, "But don't anyone wear any fragrance or any perfume."
Mhm.
So, I mean, to me, that's like the whole thing is just backfiring.
Mm.
Because I feel like I've worked a lot to go somewhere if I decide to go somewhere and still be healthy and safe.
Mhm.
And I don't have to push away somebody that I care about and not get a hug because, yeah, I don't like stinky perfume any more than she does. But
Yeah.
it feels like she's got this big thing that she pushes off from her, which is like, keep away from me everything and anyone who's unsafe. And it just makes me want to say, just, what, I really don't care. Just, you know, I don't want to be that kind of a person either.
Yeah. 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 And I think sometimes what we find with that is two things. One is people enjoy kind of being special or being difficult. And so they kind of wear it as a badge of honor.
Yes, right.
When JP Spears started doing his videos, he was making fun of the whole health community. And so he does like how to be a really good vegan to, piss off your neighbors. How to be gluten intolerant, let the world know, and so you're laughing at yourself because you're like, yeah, sometimes I just come off really bad, so,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
people like to be special and they like to,
yeah,
hang something on it. And I think the thing that was the most profound thing to myself is at one time in QT, we decided as a call that we were going to write on a piece of paper a disease on like a 3 sticky note and stick it to us. And then we were going to muscle test it and find out what the disease is. And we nailed it every time. So the power of labeling yourself with what you have is huge.
So explain that again. So you labeled yourself with something, and could the other people see the sign?
Not necessarily on the call, we couldn't, but in other words, if you label yourself as like, well, I have autoimmune disease, or
Right.
I have gluten intolerance, or I have MS, you're labeling yourself because then it makes you special
Right.
and so, there's a lot of times when I work with cancer patients, I just say, hey, we just have your regular cells, we're gonna get over it. We're not going to label ourselves with that because then
Absolutely.
you're making it harder to get rid of.
Yeah. It's like somebody said, yeah, you might have a problem, but don't make a pet out of it.
Yes, exactly.
Don't
I love
feed
that.
it and take it for walks and stuff like that. Yeah. So, yeah. And I feel like I have learned to do that about a lot of things, including my own health issues, is I don't make a pet out of them. It's not who I am. I don't have to tell the whole world and all that, but sometimes, yeah, but I'm still got other issues like my anxiety about other people's anxieties. Yeah.
Well, great questioning, guys. This was fun. It's nice to have a good conversation. So,
Totally.
so let's see. So you have my email where you can get a hold of me, which is jody@quantumtechniques.com. And let's see, I will send the trauma sequence to you, David, and I'll send you, Barbara, the energy shield.
Yeah, that would be good. Is that a code that I'm supposed to?
There is one with it, but it's also like you put on an energy shield. It's like putting on a Spider-Man suit in
Okay.
the morning. Yeah.
Okay.
So I think you guys kind of know what I do with quantum techniques, but we help you, or I help you get clarity, have energy to do what you need to do so that you can start living in peace. And we help you get at the root cause of your health issue, finding out what are the organs and glands involved, what are the toxins involved, and we muscle test that to find out what's going on. And it could be non-healing issues, things that are beliefs, non-physical. It could be, that are kind of bothering you. And like I said, a lot of times there's a physical issue and there's a non-physical issue. So you may have sensitivity, but you're also holding on to it for a belief of this makes me safe. And so we're addressing both of those when we work with clients. And so for new clients, we have a 60 minutes that we do a one-on-one coaching with, and that's for $300. If you've been in QT before and you want to do a session and kind of get updated, we can, and you've been on this call, we can do that same thing, because it's been a while for you, David, and things like that. So that's okay. But I'd love to continue to connect. And so, I do have a Facebook page, which is for it's kind of like for general muscle testing. And so that's health and happiness through muscle testing. That's my Facebook business page. But I also have a Facebook group page, and I'm trying to build it. But life seems to always get in the way, but it's a good way that I can connect and things like that. And that's called Health Puzzle Academy.
Oh, okay. All right. That's where that came from. Okay.
Yeah. And so, yeah. And then I do have the one I love the most is the YouTube channel. And so I do YouTubes and I share. And so I do the lives on Mondays and on Wednesdays. And so Mondays, I kind of do more of a devotional divine connection. And then Wednesdays, I'm kind of answering the why question that some people have, or that I've come across that's been helpful. So I try to share those on the YouTube and then also on the Facebook group. So those are all kind of ways to get a hold of us. And then we do have a new, website for quantum techniques. And so you can always check that out. So yeah, I appreciate you attending today, and thanks for hanging in there with me. And it's good. I enjoyed our conversation and the questions you guys asked. So that was fun. Do you guys have anything else before we close for tonight?
Nope. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Great.
Thank you very much. It was good. Thank you,
Yes.
Jody.
All right. Well, blessings to you. I
Very
hope you have
generous.
a good rest of the week.
Nice to meet you, David.
Okay. Likewise. Have a good night.
Get in touch, okay? Thank
Yep.
you.
I'll send you a note. Okay.
All right. Blessings, guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you so much.